So I've been working really, really hard and long, many, many hours to come up with what I would like to call my top 5 of the world's weirdest religions. Because, I get bored. No, not really, because I love this type of stuff, okay? So the weirdest religions you could possibly imagine. Now, you might be able to come up with ones even weirder than these, which would be awesome. Let me know after services. Let me know that, hey, your grandfather was part of, and I would love to hear it, okay? But here is this currently, and I'm updating the list from time to time. So currently, here is my top 5 weirdest religions of all time, starting with number 5 is going to be something called the Church of All Worlds. The Church of All Worlds. And with this group, they are looking currently, they meet as congregations so that they could try to discover the land of fairies. That's what they're all about. They want to find the land of fairies. And in 2007 started the Gray School of Wizardry. Isn't that exciting? Okay, so that's kind of an odd little bunch there, an odd little bunch. But it gets better, it gets better. Number 4 would be the Temple of Psychic Youth. Now, besides having trouble with spelling, because it's supposed to be the Temple of Psychic Youth, okay, I won't even go there, but nonetheless, besides that, what they are all about is saying that you can't even begin to understand anything unless you're able to have sex with as much things and people as possible. Okay, so that's one of those weird groups way out there when it comes to different types of perversions. But then that brings us to number 3, universe people. Universe people. This one I found intriguing. They believe that aliens have been telepathically communicating with the human race since 1997. And if you gather together, the more people are together, the more we'll be able to harness the understanding and teachings of the civilization as they let us in on the evils that are chipping away at civilization. So isn't that exciting? E.T. Okay, it gets better. It gets better. Number 2, the Church of Euthanasia. The Church of Euthanasia with the motto, save the planet, kill yourself. Isn't that just exciting? They only have one commandment to follow, thou shalt not procreate. Okay, this is just, from what I know of human civilization, procreation is one thing we don't have a struggle with as a human species. So I think this is going to be a doomed for failure type religion. But then came number 1. My personal number 1, this is just the weirdest of all of them. It's called Nuwaubianism. Nuwaubianism. Now check this out. This one is really out there. First, if a woman gives birth to a child, you are to take the afterbirth, little gross, I know, I'm going to do my best with this. You're supposed to take the afterbirth and bury it. Because if you don't, Satan will take it and make a clone of your baby. Okay, I guess Satan doesn't have a shovel. Second big part of their belief is they believe that all of humanity was ambidextrous at one point in their life, and that a meteor hit the earth, and that the earth went off on its axis, and that's why it tilts today just a little bit, and that caused the human heart to get off center in the chest, resulting in left and right-handedness. I wish I was making this up. I really do. And then lastly, they believe that the son of Satan has been born. The Pope at the time was present at the birth. It was in June 6, 1966. The child was raised by Richard Nixon and now lives in Belgium and is hooked up to a computer. Oh, so there is, to point out, just to get the glimpse of it, there is some really weird people out there. Okay, even beyond the weird religions, they're just really weird people in this world. And which leads to a very important question. If your loved one were to get involved in a crazy, screwed up cult, what would you do? How would you respond? If your loved one got involved in one of these crazy groups or something even weirder or something just different but still a off-the-wall cult, okay, and what would you do? How would you respond? Would you try to pull them out? And how? Would you insult their leader? Would you try to kidnap them? Would you try to belittle their beliefs? Would you try to show errors in their thinking? What would you do? How would you respond? Now, with that mind, that thought in your head and in your mind, I would like to offer the most I will ever be toward being sympathetic to the Pharisees of the Bible. In that, they thought for sure Jesus' followers were a cult. Okay, so that is why the Pharisees are so much against Jesus and against his followers, why they even plotted to kill Jesus, because they could think of no other way to stop the cult than to kill the leader. Okay, so that's what they were doing. So the Pharisees had a real complicated point of view. One, they wanted the control of the religion that they had and perverting the scriptures and adding rules to it. Two, they wanted to make sure Israel didn't end up in some type of exile again. And three, they honestly were misguided and misunderstood who Jesus was. They did not know Jesus was God in the flesh, because how often does that happen? Yeah, once, and that's it, right? And that was Jesus. Hadn't happened before, and isn't going to happen afterwards. And the moment when we maybe try to be too judgmental to the Pharisees and say, stupid religious leaders, just stop and ask yourself, if your child came home, or if your sister came home, or your parents came home, and they said, hey, I met this guy at Walmart. He was God in the flesh. I'm going to follow his teachings from now on. You'd be like, whoa, red flag, sit down, let's talk, because that's weird. Okay, and that's where the Pharisees are kind of coming from. So we kind of need to be a little sympathetic toward their point of view just a little bit. Meanwhile, Jesus is trying to reveal to them that he is the Messiah, that he fulfilled all 300 messianic prophecies, which is mathematically impossible to do without a divine intervention, that he alone is actually God in the flesh, 100% human, 100% divine, all at the same time. Jesus is trying to reveal this to everybody in the land throughout all of the New Testament, throughout his life that he lived, and his death, his resurrection, and his ascension. He is trying to reveal that, and the Pharisees are missing it, and so they are insulting Jesus, because what else are you going to do besides kill the leader and insult the leader? And so they try to insult him. They try to tell people Jesus is working by the power of the devil himself. He's working by the power of Beelzebub. That's who Jesus is working for. And then Jesus is like, you idiots. If I was working by the power of Satan, that would be like Satan showing up in a wrestling match and suplexing himself. It makes no sense. He's defeating himself. And what type of an army is that? That's bizarre. So that's where we left off last week. Now as we continue in our verse-by-verse study of the book of Matthew, we get into chapter 12 at verse 33, and we're going to go a little bit forward to about verse 37 today. And as we look at this, I want to show you something. This is how attitudes are developed, and this is an important precursor I want to be able to hammer out real quick before we look at Jesus' words, because this will help us understand his words better. So check this out. Emotions. Anybody ever feel an emotion? Anybody? Emotion? Happy, sad, anger, fear? Oh, come on, like two human beings in the whole place. The rest of you are all like AIs? Is that what's going on here? Just kind of, I am, Yeah, okay, we all have emotions. Emotions are secondary, okay? They come after our thinking. Our thinking always happens first. So every emotion is a response to a thought that happens first. Now, sometimes it's really quick, boom, boom. Okay, you have a thought and you got an emotion because it's a habit. Okay, so someone cuts you off and you're angry right away. You had a thought, first of all, you almost hit me, almost made me late, almost killed me. I was first. Whatever the thought is, and the anger comes immediately afterwards, and it's really quick, but it's still thinking, then the emotional response afterwards. So all emotions are a reaction to something. Okay, so if you're dating, and you meet somebody, and you're just thinking great thoughts about them all the time. Oh, they're hot. Oh, look at how they walk. I really love how they may have a great sense of humor. I really love their attitude. I really love in fact, I like being around them. In fact, every time I'm apart, I can't stop thinking about them. I can't wait to see them again. And then when we get together, I like who I am around them. In fact, all these positive thoughts eventually lead to the emotion and feelings of, I think I am in. There it is. Okay, and then when people say, well, I've just fallen out of love. Baloney. You started thinking unloving thoughts to where the emotional response isn't present. Okay, you stopped thinking loving thoughts to where you no longer have the emotional reaction of love. And that's what it means to stop loving somebody. All you do is just come in the house and you just leave your stuff on the floor. You pass the coat rack just to put your coat on the chair. You passed the hamper to put your socks on the floor, which smell, by the way, because you wore them for 2 weeks straight. And now there's a green film that just seems to be permeating. And why can't you just take out the trash like I asked you to do? I'm going to get to it. Yeah, you always say you're going to get to it, but there it sits every day. And so then comes all of these thoughts of, man, I just can't even stand looking at you right now. Do you think that something like that constantly floating through the mind is going to lead a person to say, but I love them? No. Okay, they're going to say, get out of my face. I don't know if I even like them anymore. Okay, so that, by the way, is why all divorces come from a hardness of heart. A hardness of heart. And so it's amazing, this dynamic. So Jesus is going to talk about what comes out of the heart. And when Jesus talks about what comes out of the heart, what he's referring to there is what comes out of the mind. Now, I know you're going to be like, Pastor, it says heart. Why can you just take the word heart out and put in the word mind? Because in the Bible, heart meant the brain. I know, that's weird, but it's exactly what it is. You thought within your heart. You did not think within the mind. Okay? Proverbs 23:7. For as a person thinks within their heart, so they are. Luke 24:25. Unwise and slow of heart to believe in all what the prophets have said. 2 Corinthians 9:7. Each one must give as he has decided in his heart. Romans 10:10. One believes with the heart, resulting in righteousness, and confesses with the mouth, resulting in salvation. On and on again. It talks about thinking, deciding, believing with the heart. And we, in our modern mindset of American Western civilization, we don't talk with our heart that way. We talk with our heart with emotions. They did not. They talk with their emotions with the stomach. Okay, and we don't talk about our emotions with the stomach. Unless, of course, I would tell my wife, ooh, baby, you moved me. Okay, but we don't talk about the stomach emotionally like that. The closest we come to is when we get nervous and we say we have butterflies in our stomach. That's the closest we come to in today's vernacular, in today's understanding when it comes to that emotional set in the gut. Otherwise, our emotions are in the heart and our thinking's in the mind. In the Bible, it was emotions in the gut and the thinking in the heart. Okay, and so when it talks about ask Jesus into your heart, it's supposed to be how you think about Jesus and perceive Jesus and understand Jesus and trust Jesus. Okay, so it's a mind-type activity that is going on. So with that in mind, then, let's look at what Jesus has to say, and so we can kind of get a glimpse at what is going on, because Jesus is going to talk about words and how words are a result of what's in the heart, but not the emotion seat, but our thinking. Okay, so words are a result of our thinking. Okay, so we think, we feel, we speak. And the words are going to come out of all of that. And if we want to control the words, we got to control the thinking. Because controlling the thinking means you control the attitudes, the emotions and feelings, and then our speech itself. So check this out. So in Matthew chapter 12, verse 33, Jesus is dealing with all the complications of the Pharisees trying to lead people astray, lead people away from Jesus. Jesus is working with this, and he's saying, make a tree good, and its fruit will be good. Or make a tree bad, and its fruit will be bad, for a tree is recognized by its fruit. Now, in this part of this, what he's getting at is that speech, because he's talking about speech, and the reason he's talking about speech is because the Pharisees just charged Jesus previously with blaspheming with his speech the Holy Spirit. And Jesus is saying, Jesus was charging them with potentially blaspheming the Holy Spirit. Sorry, dyslexic moment. Jesus was charging them with potentially blaspheming the Holy Spirit and was warning them that if their speech is not good and if they blaspheme with their mouth the Holy Spirit, that sin will not be forgiven them. And we talked about that last week in pretty good detail. So he continues on from that speech emphasis to, hey, if you're a good tree, you're going to produce good fruit. So if you have a good heart and a good mind, if you will, if you're thinking right and you're a godly person, you will expect to find godly speech. But if you're a bad tree with bad heart, bad thoughts, you're going to produce bad fruit. Okay, you're going to produce bad speech. That's kind of what's going on here. And so Jesus is giving that warning about that idea. Don't be a bad tree. You need to be a good tree. Okay, be very much a good tree. So he goes on with this about this. He says, you brood of vipers. I love this. This is Jesus cussing at the Pharisees. Kid you not. You brood of vipers. In other words, your mom shagged the devil. That's what Jesus is saying to the Pharisees. Your mom and Satan had sex, and you guys are the products of it. Okay, he's basically saying, you son of a serpent. We talk like that today sometimes, right? Okay, that's what Jesus is saying with brood of vipers. You might say, Pastor, that's offensive. Yes, it was. This was not a compliment to the Pharisees. They did not look at this statement and go, oh, Jesus is such a nice guy. He calls him a son of a snake, and they're just like, what? Man, you can talk about my dad, but don't you dare diss my mama. Okay, this is a real offensive statement. Okay, so you brood of vipers. How can you, who are evil, say anything good? See, they're a bad tree. That's what Jesus is telling them. They're rotten right down to the roots. You're a bad tree. For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. What the mind is focused on, how we would use that term in today's terminology. A good man brings good things out of the good stored up in him, and an evil man brings evil things out of the evil stored up in him. But I tell you that everyone will have to give account on the day of judgment for every empty word they have spoken. Anybody here ever said anything under their breath? You get to be judged for that someday. Isn't that exciting? Aren't you just waking up this morning saying, gee, I hope the pastor helps me feel convicted over the speech? You're welcome. I didn't pick it because I'm picking on any of you. It's the next passage in Scripture, so we all get to be convicted. Sound like fun? Okay, so by your words, you will be acquitted, and your words, you will be condemned. Okay, so this is what Jesus is completely getting at here, is that words are very much important. You can't just say something idly, carelessly, with empty meaning and think that is perfectly okay. That is not how life works at all. Okay? Why do you think, people in the business world know this very well. Why do you think there's interviews? They sit you down and they do what with you? They talk. Because they want to know what type of person you are, and that is done by speech, because speech has power. There is absolutely power in words, and I think this is a concept being lost over time and as generations come and generations go. I think we are forgetting the power of speech, and that is why we tend to find on social media people just lashing out with horrible words all over Facebook and Twitter and Snapchat, how the media is even using horrible words over anybody and everybody, just lashing out with almost like a type of verbal terrorism. You know, if you're not with my point of view, then you're automatically evil, a racist, a narcissist, a sexist, a homophobe, or whatever. And they lash off on all these titles to try to just bash on people. And they try to categorize them someplace on the other side of a Berlin Wall that they don't want to be. And they try to ostracize people with their words. Because words have power, but people are forgetting that words have power. And so they aren't counting on what they're saying, what it means, and the impact it's having on the culture, and the impact that it has on the nation. They're losing that, completely losing that. And it's going to be really important to try to bring that understanding back of what words mean. I started teaching this to my daughter. She's 6, right? And before the cold came, hasn't that been fun? The weatherman says, hey, it's going to be another mild winter. And then the very next day, it dropped to freezing. Thanks, weatherman. Go back to school. Mild my foot. Okay, and so before all the cold came, my daughter was outside, and she picked up one of those little dandelion things. You guys ever do this? And she goes, Daddy, can I blow it? Can I blow it? Can I blow it? I'm like, yeah, knock yourself out. So she, and peace went. And I said, okay, now get him. She went, what? I said, catch them all. And she started running, and then she stopped, and she went, Daddy, that's impossible. And I sat down on the grass with her, and I said, now, Ziva, just want you to know that that's like your words. That once you speak anything, it's like blowing on a dandelion, and it goes out there. And once it goes out, you can't catch it. You can't bring it back. And you can't fix what was said if it was said wrong. You can't put it back on the plant. She just went, huh. Daddy, do you want to play tag? But I'm still, she's sick, but the life lesson of that, right? Just trying to get her to understand the power of words and the responsibility we have and how we handle those words. Take, for example, a guy named Jim and a gal. Her name is Heather, and they're sitting up at the front of a church surrounded by loved ones. And there's a pastor in front of them, and he turns to the woman and he says, do you, Heather, take this man Jim to be your lawfully wedded husband? And then she opens up her mouth and says one word, no. Ladies are like, oh. Guys are like, snap. Right? How much power did one word have? Think of another guy named Sean, and he's also surrounded by the ones he loves, only he's in front of a judge and jury. And the judge turns to the jury and says, do you guys have a verdict? And they said, yes, we do. And the judge says, how do you find the defendant? And the foreman stands up and says, we find the defendant. How important and powerful is one word? Okay, the power of words. It can change a life. It can wreck a life. It can build a friendship. It can destroy a marriage. It can create a company. It can cause a bankruptcy. The power of words is intense. The power of words is extreme, and we need to appreciate that. This is why James wrote in chapter 3, verse 10, that unlike wild animals, you cannot tame the tongue. You cannot control the power of speech. The only thing you can control is the speech itself. You can't control the power of it. You only can control what was said. So I'd like to try to do a little shift today, just for fun. I think it would be a great exercise for us. I'd like to do a shift. I would like to go, Matthew in Jesus' talkings here in this passage spends this time talking about how speech is, if you're a bad person, bad speech, good person, good speech, control your tongue, you're going to be judged for it, and kind of is emphasizing on the speech to avoid. And what I would like to do is try to combine Jesus' teaching with another passage. Usually I don't do this. I like going just verse by verse and just hitting it. But I want to bring us into a passage that also teaches us what to say. Okay, I want to learn what is actually good speech. How could I actually leave here today talking better than when I came in? That's what I would like to know. How to talk well and how to apply this directly into relationships so that we can all have happier, healthier homes. Wouldn't that be something exciting to have? Like 3 people going, yeah, and 2 people are like, you don't know my home. So I like to combine this with Ephesians chapter 4, verse 29. And I'd like to look real quickly at 6 points of what communication does within a family, what it does within a home, what it can do within a relationship, what it can do within a business, what it can do within the school friendships, whatever the case may be. I want to see this unpack itself. Here's what Ephesians 4:29 says. Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but, and I love the word but because it means a new direction. Okay, and this is a great but, and it's a big but, and I cannot lie. There is also something else very powerful. It's called technology. It also has a great power to it as well. And so, if you have your Bibles with you, Ephesians 4:29, fortunately I know exactly where that book is. 4:29 says, do not let foul language come out of your mouth, but only what is good for building up someone in need, so that it gives grace to those who hear. Okay, so that it gives grace to those who hear. So it benefits those who listen. Okay, so that is what we're going to be looking at, unpacking this verse with Jesus' teaching in Matthew chapter 12. So 6 points here for you. Ready for this? They all start with the letter S because my thesaurus is my friend. I sometimes, like I said, I get bored sometimes. Number 1. It is to be a standard. Communication is supposed to be a standard. In other words, Let me just be honest with you. When stress hits in life, communication is the first thing that goes. Okay? That's just what happens. When stress hits, communication is the first thing that goes. And people will say to each other, well, we'll talk about it later. But later never seems to come. So you need to schedule it. You need to schedule it. You really do. Because here's what happens. If you're married to someone, I really recommend trying to go out on dates on a regular basis, or at least once a month. Married couples keep going out on dates, okay? Go out on dates. But if you do not have communication as a standard, what's going to happen is you're going to talk about all that business junk during the date, and that will ruin the fun of the date. Because you're going to talk about finances, you're going to talk about budget, and you're going to talk about. But if you have it scheduled, if you already have it planned, you already know when you're talking about it, you don't have to talk about it on the date. You can talk about other things, goals, ambitions, desires, dreams, plans, everything else. You don't have to sit down and say, man, you overspent last week. I overspent. You should have seen what you did. Yeah, there's a good date. Okay, so we got to make communication a standard. You got to schedule it. You got to talk to each other. You got to talk, because the crazier life gets, it's the first thing that goes. Secondly, it must be sanctified. It must be sanctified. This is directly out of the Ephesians passage when it says, let no foul or unwholesome talk come out of your mouth. Your speech should be of such that if Jesus were to say the same thing you said, he can still go to the cross innocent and pure. If Jesus can speak your sentence and still remain sinless, your speech was sanctified. But if he said it and it would disqualify him to go to the cross, then your speech is not sanctified. Okay, so your speech must be sanctified. And here's just what I've run across. I kid you not. I have heard men talk to their wives with words they would never use to their boss's face. And I have seen women talk about their husbands without their husband being present with words they would never use for their kids. I have seen people trash each other in ways that should never be spoken. Their speech is not sanctified. The speech is not building up someone's reputation. The speech is not trying to help someone be honored in the eyes of others. Instead, it tears. And it destroys, and it belittles. Our speech must be absolutely sanctified. Our speech must serve. Our speech is supposed to serve. Talking in a way is meant to help others. Did you know that you talking is not for you? Isn't that great? It's supposed to be for someone else. If it was just for you, think it in your head. Don't say it out loud. But it's not for you. It's for other people to hear. So talk in a way that's beneficial to them, in a way that helps them for their edification. So there should be no code. There should be no beating around the bush, trying to be subtle. Be clear. Be concise. Okay, it should be like that. The woman that is mad at her husband and works away at the dishes, and the husband comes home and goes, honey, what's wrong? And she just ignores, and she says, if you don't know, I'm not telling you. Well, that's not serving anybody. Guys are going, see, told you. Now people are like, does he have a microphone in our house? How did he know? Because I've run across it so many times. Speech is supposed to serve and to be for benefit. Speech is supposed to be suitable. Speech is supposed to be suitable. This takes on various different looks. First of all, not everything that needs to be said right now. Guys, you need to learn this. Because sometimes guys just get extra needy and extra clingy, and they just gotta get it all out. And sometimes you can just wait. Sometimes you gotta wait till the right time, to the right conditions, and to the right situations. In fact, some guys are really good at this to find the most unsuitable time to say something, period. Okay, they'll wait till it's the most worst time ever to say, yeah, you're just like your mom, aren't you? And it's just really, they just know how to save those comments for that right moment. They just like to find that button. It's like a self-destruct in the home button. And they just know how to let it, and not everything that needs to be said right now. I love what Proverbs 27:14 says. It says this: he who blesses his friend with a loud voice early in the morning, it will be reckoned to him as a curse. I love that. Let's knit that, put that on a wall, right? Okay, so check this out. It would be that let's say that I wanted to shower my wife with unique praise. Okay, I already tell her how great she is, how lovely she is, and how I love her, and how much she does. And so let's say I decide I want to extra appreciate her. So at 4 o'clock in the morning, I decide to sneak down to the kitchen to make her breakfast in bed. Oh, no. I want to appreciate more than that. So I go down there and I get myself a pot. I get myself a spoon. At 4 o'clock in the morning, I then walk my way back upstairs to the bedroom, cooking me up some love. I stand on the bed and I look upon her sleeping face. And I go, I love you! You're awesome! The Bible says she will curse at me. Well, will reckon to me as a curse. Okay, there's a time and a place that it's suitable or not suitable. A guy is watching the Super Bowl, and it's his favorite team playing, and it's the fourth quarter it's the fourth quarter. It's almost done. It's right toward the end of the game. The game is tied. The opposing team has the ball. They throw. The hero team jumps to try to intercept. The wife turns the TV off. Click. We need to talk. Might as well be 4 a.m. with a pot and pan and spoon. You will hear cursing. Okay, so that's the thing. Speech is to be suitable. Okay, to do the pot and pan at 4 a.m. or turning off the TV at the pivotal point of the game, neither one is serving, neither one is suitable. Well, the game shouldn't be more important than me. Well, at the fourth quarter, it kind of is. And it's not that it's more important, it's that it's also important, and we have to choose not between our priorities, but amongst our priorities, which means sometimes you say yes to school and no to family. Sometimes you say no to family or no to school and yes to family. Sometimes you say yes to church and no to a friend. Sometimes you say yes to a friend and no to the church, and you go back and forth trying to choose amongst all your priorities in life. And sometimes that means your speech. Sometimes that's about the timing. Sometimes that's about the choosing the right moment to say what needs to be said. Slow to speak. We should not be slow to speak. We should be slow to speak, quick to listen. Get my words right here. Should be quick to listen and slow to speak. We tend to be fast to speak. We tend to say what's on our mind right away. In fact, when two people are arguing, what you're finding are two people that are not listening at all. Instead, what happens is one says a point of view, the other one interrupts and talks louder because they want to know they're being heard. The other person was still talking, so they talk louder, and what you got there is a battle you lose just by playing the game. Okay, because what's happening is you are not caring what the other person says. You are not being quick to listen and slow to speak. You're being exactly the opposite. And that is a dynamic that will wreck a communication immediately. In a sense, speaking should be the last thing we do. Should be the last thing we do. If anything is said, it should first be a question to clarify what we've heard, so that we know that our next topic and our next subject or our next sentence is going to be that which is suitable, that which is sanctified, that which is going to serve the other person when I speak, as well as get across what needs to be said. And then lastly here, check this out, sentient. People are going to be like, what's that word, dude? Well, it begins with S. Leave me alone. It's hard sometimes to find words starting with the same letter. And you got to get creative. Sentient. This means our words are also physical. Okay, like a sentient being, a physical being. Huh? It works. Come on. Throw me a bone. Okay, so it's a sentient. Our words are also physical. And you're like, our words are physical? It comes out of my mouth, dude. How can it be physical? Very simple. It's really fascinating when I go up to someone and I say, would it be all right if I came over tomorrow? And they go, yeah, that won't be a problem. See what they're doing? Yeah, that won't be a problem. They're speaking something polite, but their body is saying, yeah, don't come over tomorrow. So when I'm serious, man, people do that. And when I see that, I don't call them out on their lying to me. I know they're being nice, not to hurt my feelings. So I'll say, would another day be better? Oh, yeah, how about Thursday? Oh, I see excitement there. Thursday it is. Okay, but people do that, so we have to keep in mind that when we communicate with people, it's not just our words, it's our body. How weird would it be if someone came up to you and said, my cat just died, and you went, really? Man, do you hate cats or something? What's wrong with that smile? It's just, what's up with that? Okay, and so, or even to the point of someone comes to talk to you, and you're just, yeah, that's a cool idea. Wow, really? Put your phone down. I can multitask. Yeah, whatever. Well, I can repeat back everything you just said. It's not about that. It's about serving. And it's about sentientism. It's about your body communicating to me that you're listening. It's about your body communicating that you're listening. So put it down, eye contact, proper, appropriate facial expressions. Let's talk. And now the ladies are like, see? That's the body part of this. Now, I want us to get these 6 points and really, really get it. And our little theme and series is called God's Army, what it means to join God's Army, what it takes to be a soldier in God's Army. This is how to talk when you're a member of God's Army. And if you're in the Army, one of the things you get to do are cadences. Oh, yeah. It's coming. Let's take a moment as everybody stand. If you're able. If you're not able to stand, but you can remain sitting, but able-bodied people, let's stand for a moment. Yeah, here we go. You ready for this? So, a little marching going on here. That's right. We got some cadences to do, and it's going to be about the 6 points of communication. I'll start it. You guys are going to echo. Sound like fun? Yay! Yeah, just get this over with, dude. This is getting tiring already. I didn't come to church to exercise. Yeah, that's what a lot of people say. Here we go. So, sanctified should be our speech.
Sanctified should be our speech.
Helping others, not just me.
Helping others, not just me.
Be quick to listen and slow to speak.
Be quick to listen and slow to speak.
Words can include our physique.
Words can include our physique.
Give me a little smile, huh? Not everything needs to be said right now.
Not everything needs to be said right now.
My tongue is not a pushing plow. Yeah, you guys can be seated. Thank you. Oh, man, that's going on YouTube. Here's the whole thing, guys. Just to bring this all wrapped up here for you. Your words are a window, okay? It is a window. It is that which allows us to peer in and see the condition of you. What you say, how you say it, reveals to us your character, reveals to us your dedication to Christ. Take, for example, a simple phrase. It's a phrase I never use. You'll never hear it utter my mouth. If I ever say it, I catch myself immediately and I unwind myself. I back up. Okay, it is the phrase, I wish you luck. You will never hear me utter those words. Why? Because I don't believe in luck. Why? Because luck implies a power force outside of God. Either God is going to bless you or God has given you the tools to do the job, and I hope that goes well, but I'm not going to wish you luck. Because my theology doesn't support that. Okay, what you say and how you say it reveals your faith. It reveals where your heart is. It reveals how much you love God and how much you love people. It reveals your patience. It reveals your compassion. It reveals your grace. It reveals your mercy. It reveals everything. How are people understanding God? Because they talked to you. How are your kids better understanding God? Because of how you talked to them. Are your words putting people down, or is it building people up? We could even back this right up. Since all this comes from how you think, how are you thinking about people? What thoughts go through your mind when you see somebody? I just don't have time to talk to you right now. I don't care about what you're dealing with. I just want to move on. Oh, why are you bothering me? I'm just too busy, got too much to do. My paper is more important than people. What's going through your mind? How are you thinking? Because your speech is indicative of that. It reveals everything. Let's have a word of prayer.